Bun regăsit! Field the Markets, ca de obicei, suntem live la singura emisiune zilnică dedicată piețelor financiare. Salutare, Tiberiu!
Salut, Cătălin! Îmi pare bine să ne vedem, bineînțeles, și la începutul zilei de astăzi și salutăm și pe cei care sunt alături de noi și îi așteptăm să vorbim în premieră cu un reprezentant de la Premier Energy Group, să vorbim puțin despre sectorul producătorilor de energie, nu, și distribuție.
Exact.
Este complicat acolo.
E complicat, dar o descurcăm noi. Până atunci vorbim de Federal Reserve, nu? Apropo de asta, evoluțiile sunt liniștite pe Wall Street și peste tot, pentru că se așteaptă comunicatul, se așteaptă proiecțiile economice. Atenție, avem astăzi, avem conferință de presă, evident, și spuneau prietenii noștri că e maxim istoric, dar eu le-am zis, dom'le, stați puțin că poate să fie intraday, închiderea e importantă. Iată că
exact așa.
Închiderea de ieri n-a mai fost cu maxim istoric, dar ce așteptăm? Întrebarea nu e dacă vor scădea ratele pentru prima dată din 2020, ci cu cât. O să vedem că toate băncile cam 25 de basic points și asta e în plan, dar ai văzut, pariurile sunt și la 50 de basic points. Aici întrebarea ar fi să nu fie un semnal prea negativ ăsta cu 50 de basic points, să fie pericol pentru economie să interpreteze piața. Va fi volatilitate, cel puțin în conferința de presă. Cifrele le știm, nu? De unde plecăm, cu inflația și cu asta. Va fi interesant graficul de puncte până la urmă.
Evident, da. Deci avem acum target rate-ul 5,25-5,50. Ăsta e de fapt intervalul. Și rata efectivă e puțin mai jos. De fapt, e între ele, cumva, e acel 5,33 de care am mai vorbit. Acum, dacă e să recapitulăm sau să luăm încă o dată ce am mai spus de fiecare dată, Fedul se uită la două lucruri, la inflație și la piața muncii. Inflația e clar că este în scădere, piața muncii pare stabilă. Nici nu se deteriorează chiar atât de mult, dar nici nu o mai ia în sus sau nici nu mai vedem efervescența aia de care aminteam în lunile poate precedente. Dimpotrivă, acum, dacă e să luăm în considerare doar raport sau ca și bază de discuție, doar raportul NFP de luna, adică ultimul raport acum care a fost dat la începutul lunii astea, cifrele sunt mai mici. Și dacă e să ne uităm și la acele revizuiri care s-au făcut în ultimul an de zile, în ultimele 12 luni, cifrele sunt și mai mici chiar.
Da.
Și e clar că poate că deocamdată piața muncii are cumva și un lag și nu vedem în mod instantaneu ce se întâmplă în piață, ci vine cumva cu o întârziere poate de câteva luni de zile. Și chiar mai devreme mă uitam pe un comentariu, tot așa, pe o publicație internațională care spunea, dom'le, mai bine ar scădea de fapt rata acum mai puternic decât să avem sau să aibă surprize cumva peste câteva luni de zile și să regrete că nu au luat măsuri mai puternice de la început. Adică,
de altă parte, să nu dea semnalul ăla negativ, băi, taie cu 50 de basic points, e nasol, da, e nasol pentru economie. Și pe de altă parte m-am uitat la ce spun analiștii, băncile de investiții de pe Wall Street și avem niște tabele interesante apropo de rate cut-ul acum, da, și noiembrie și decembrie, da, de se merge sunt Goldman Sachs care merge cu 25 de basic points la cele 3 ședințe, sunt Wells Fargo care merge cu 50 de basic points la primele 2 și 25 în decembrie. Foarte interesant.
Adică JP Morgan văd că merge la fel, tot cu 50 cu 50.
Adică... Da, și JP Morgan vorba aia. Deci e totuși o diferență de 50 de basic points, adică 0,75 față de 1,25, da? Foarte interesant anul ăsta. De-aia sunt așteptate predicțiile dot plot. Și am mai văzut un tabel și vi-l arătăm acum și cu proiecțiile pe perioada următoare. Iată, 24, 25, 26, 27. Câte caturi sunt în 24? Iată, 75 sau 125, exact ce vorbeam. Limitele, nimeni nu vede mai puțin de 75 sau mai mult de 125, mă rog, vede și 105, dar asta e media,
evident,
da? Și uitați acolo, mai multe bănci cum văd foarte. Astăzi doar JP Morgan și încă cineva vede 50 de basic points, deci cam zic eu că e inclus în preț acest 25, să zicem.
Cel puțin 25, reiau ce am zis ieri.
Da.
Cumva politică. Acum, totuși m-am uitat acum în urmă cu câteva secunde pe acel site pe CM Portal, pe FedWatch Tool și sunt undeva la 50 și ceva la sută probabilități pentru 50 de puncte de bază.
Da, dar au mai scăzut de la 67.
A mai scăzut față de corect, așa e.
În fine. Acum, dacă rămânem puțin în America, au venit niște știri din piața imobiliară azi, nu foarte importante, dar totuși le punctăm. Nu foarte importante pentru decizia de azi pe care Fedul deja a luat-o.
Importante pentru piața imobiliară din Statele Unite.
Exact, care totuși ea dă un trend acolo.
E vorba, da.
Te rog, nu, vreau să spun că mulți fac confuzie că azi e ședința Fed. Întotdeauna reuniunea ține 2 zile. Au și ei seară, iau cină, deși ieri și azi. Azi e comunicatul și restul. În fine, peste așteptări, nu? Creștere aici interesantă.
Avem într-adevăr o creștere la partea de autorizații de construire, acele building permits, cum le zic ei, un indicator foarte important, urmărit în special de investitorii din piața imobiliară și nu numai, pentru că piața imobiliară la ei e legată destul de strâns cu piața de capital. Plus 4,9%, avem 1,475 milioane la sfârșitul lunii august 2024, cea mai mare creștere din ultimele 5 luni.
Se vede pe grafic,
exact. Și peste estimările pieței, care au în jur de 1,41 de milioane. Am văzut acolo avizele pentru unități sau pentru clădiri cu 5 unități sau cu 5 apartamente.
A crescut mai mult.
Înseamnă asta, sau mai mult de atât, avem o creștere de 8,4%. Pe când casele unifamiliare, casele normale, case pentru o singură familie, a crescut doar cu 2,8% aici. Vestul mijlociu, acolo sunt cele mai mari creșteri, în jur de 12,5% față de celelalte zone ale Americii. Deci, un lucru bun.
Un lucru bun. Am mai avut în iunie o creștere după 3 luni de scădere. Am avut iar scădere, acum crește. Dacă ne uităm și la housing starts, locuințele începute, da? Și astea au crescut peste așteptări. 9,6% au ajuns la 1,36 milioane. Vin de la o scădere de aproape 7%, da? Și e cel mai puternic salt, atenție, 9 luni. Deci, să fie astea niște semnale, vom vedea ce va fi. Până la urmă e volatilitate și pe cifrele astea de la o lună la alta.
Și acum evoluția începerilor de case, ca să zic așa, este exact invers față de autorizațiile de construire aici. Locuințele unifamiliare au crescut cu 15,8%, deci aproape 16%, în timp ce mini-bloculețele, ca să zic așa, cu minim 5 sau mai multe apartamente undeva, au avut o scădere de aproape 7%. Housing Start, ăsta este un indicator care arată, după ce se obține autorizația de construire, nu știu cum, când se bagă prima dată cazmaua în pământ.
Dar când se începe, că multe nu încep. Adică
multe nu încep. Autorizația de construire cred că e valabilă vreo 2 ani de zile, ca și idee în general, și în România. Adică nu.
Da, e un indicator. Sunt vreo 5 importanți în piața imobiliară. E printre cei mai puțin importanți, dar îl punctăm acum. Înainte să facem și n-am mai făcut de mult, am analizat o companie, Tiberiu, o companie importantă, Adobe, a dat săptămâna trecută rezultate și avem acum câteva minute să le discutăm puțin, să nu ne ieșim din mână, să spunem așa. Cifre bune acolo pe planșe.
Cifre bune pe planșă, dar evoluția cotației a luat-o mult și repede. Exact imediat după ce a raportat. În cazul lor avem al 3-lea trimestru fiscal din anul.
De asta mi-era frică, că n-am scăpat de al 3-lea trimestru.
Pentru că perspectiva pe care compania a dat-o nu s-a ridicat cumva la înălțimea așteptărilor investitorilor. O să punctăm imediat și care a fost perspectiva asta. Acum, din punct de vedere financiar, veniturile realizate 5,4 miliarde, puțin peste 5,41 miliarde de dolari, o creștere de 11% față de aceeași perioadă a anului trecut, în timp ce câștigul pe acțiune 3,76 dolari, conform standardelor GAAP, pe când câștigul pe acțiune ajustat, acel non-GAAP, a fost puțin mai mare, 4,65 de dolari. Din punct de vedere al activității operaționale, sau de fapt înainte de asta, aș vrea să ne uităm puțin pe a doua linie de sus în jos, de sub veniturile operaționale. Avem acea marjă brută sau diferența dintre veniturile totale ale companiei și costurile COGS, costurile care au generat vânzările. Și atât că este o marjă absolut uriașă, aș putea spune, care se apropie de 90%. Deci o companie, un pure player din sectorul tech pentru Adobe, care are costuri variabile foarte, foarte mici și a reușit să scaleze cumva foarte bine produsele pe care le are în portofoliu și le vinde. Deci, din punct de vedere operațional, avem un profit, un rezultat pozitiv, aproape 2 miliarde, o creștere cu 17%. Marja operațională s-a îmbunătățit și a ajuns acum la 37%, în timp ce bottom line-ul sau profitul net și câștigul pe acțiune, de care am spus mai devreme, creștere cu 20%. Acolo e o eroare, nu e egal 23 plus 23%, dar în fine, se înțelege, nu e nicio problemă. Din punct de vedere al valuation-ului, avem într-adevăr destul de sus, peste media companiilor din S&P, cred că și din Nasdaq, dacă nu mă înșel, că 28% e destul de înalt acolo. Acum, din punct de vedere operațional, ce a contribuit la creșterea asta? Segmentul digital media, care este cel mai mare al celor de la Adobe, veniturile au fost în jur de 4 miliarde de dolari, o creștere de 11%. Venitul recurent, net nou, acel annual recurring revenue, țineți minte că este specific cumva companiilor din sectorul tech, aș putea spune, super tech. La Adobe îl vedem, la UiPath îl vedem și mai sunt și alte companii care, și de la noi, mă rog, sunt companii care preferă să ne dea și tipul ăsta de indicator, care și ăsta a fost în creștere față de aceeași perioadă a anului trecut. Și veniturile segmentului Digital Experience, 1,35 miliarde de dolari, în creștere cu 10% față de aceeași perioadă a anului trecut. Și ca să ne întoarcem la începutul descrierii evoluției Adobe, vorbind de această perspectivă care a speriat cumva, să zic așa, între ghilimele, investitorii și au penalizat destul de mult acțiunea, care imediat după ce a raportat a scăzut cu vreo 10%. Mă rog, până acum, în ultimele 5-6 zile are deja un minus 10%. Din punct de vedere al veniturilor, Adobe a estimat, sau câștiguri pe medie, ca să zic așa, $4,66 pe acțiune. Vedeți că este exact în mijlocul intervalului pe care compania l-a prognozat în stânga acolo. Și din punct de vedere al veniturilor avem un interval 5,50-5,55 miliarde de dolari, mă rog, media fiind undeva în jur de 5,53. Ambii indicatori ăștia prevăd sau au deja o creștere de 9, respectiv 10% an pe an. N-a fost de ajuns și iată că acțiunea a fost destul de mult penalizată. Poate că a fost pe zero acum, dar de la începutul anului deja a acumulat un minus destul de important.
Da. E penalizată și te corectez, adică la cei 10% scădere se mai adaugă și azi și înainte de asta. Că
astăzi n-am văzut deschiderea.
Da, e 1 și ceva, dar total sunt vreo 15% și ne uităm pe graficul weekly, pentru că graficul daily e mai complicat, sunt multe gap-uri pe aici și nu avem o imagine de ansamblu așa, avem o imagine clară de ansamblu, 2 săptămâni de scădere, să o luăm cu momentul actual, care duce cotația de la un maxim local aici 585 până la 508, 507 cât e acum și e într-o zonă de suport. A fost o zonă de rezistență, a fost suport străpuns, a fost iarăși rezistență, suport confirmat, s-a trecut prin el ca în brânză de vreo 2 ori cu gap-uri, cu rezultate, dar iată, deocamdată suntem aici și dacă ține e pozitiv, să dau și ceva optimism și chiar dacă trece sub el poate fi optimist, pentru că uitați-vă puțin, din minimul din septembrie de acum 2 ani fix, avem o linie pe care o putem trage și toate corecțiile s-au dus în linia asta. Deci e posibil să fim atenți la linia asta și chiar dacă trece de zona asta de 504, să zicem, schimbă cumva prefixul sub 500, deși 500 ar cam trebui să țină, mă uit și în spate, au fost săptămâni întregi care au oprit anumite mișcări, uitați și aici. S-ar putea să țină cum a ținut și în iulie, da? Deci nu mai departe de iulie. Da, chiar dacă scade de sub, dacă e deasupra acestei linii, putem avea o revenire. În rest, într-adevăr, cum spunea și Tiberiu, perspectivele au făcut să se aleagă praful așa pe moment de cotație, dar era cumva la un nivel sus totuși. Să nu uităm că în noiembrie 2021 am avut maxime istorice și nu am fost foarte departe de ele. Bun, hai să înainte să ajungem la BVB să trecem și până Europa să confirmăm cifrele de acum 2 săptămâni cu CPI-ul, inflația din zona euro, confirmate, Tiberiu, nu? 2,2, corul 2,8, finale au fost confirmate, egalate estimările inițiale și aici stăm mai bine cu inflația ca la american de mult timp. ECB-ul deja a redus de 2 ori rata dobânzii.
Da, stă mai bine și dacă mi-aduc bine aminte când am vorbit prima dată când am prezentat la începutul lunii astea, dacă nu mă înșel, când a venit prima prognoză de inflație pentru zona euro, ECB-ul cred că se așteaptă cumva spre finalul anului ăsta să ajungă sau chiar să coboare inflația sub 2% sau să se mențină pe aici, 1,92, în fine, plus minus. E greu de prognozat, mai ales că acum știm foarte bine că venind sezonul puțin mai rece, costurile cu energia o să aibă un impact din ce în ce mai puternic și cred că e o bună ocazie asta să vorbim cu invitatul nostru vis-a-vis de impactul pe care costurile energetice le au în general așa asupra prețurilor, pentru că știm foarte bine în ultimii 2 ani de zile de când a început, de când s-a declanșat de fapt războiul din Ucraina și chiar și dinainte, din timpul pandemiei, prețurile au luat o razmă.
O piață foarte sensibilă și de când switch-ul ăsta către Green Deal s-a bulversat totul. Să spunem că totuși marile economii, ai văzut, au inflație în scădere. Și Germania, și Franța, și Italia oare mică. În schimb, România contribuie din plin la Uniunea Europeană, că evident noi nu suntem în zona euro, dar așa ca idee, la inflația din Uniunea Europeană, noi o tragem în sus, să spunem așa.
Sunt anumite componente ale acelui coș care sunt, și le știm cu toții, care la noi din păcate sunt mai sus decât media Uniunii Europene. Mă rog, sunt printre cele mai mari, dar știm foarte bine că noi avem, datorită sau din cauza deficitelor, ambele deficite, atât cel bugetar cât și cel comercial, noi avem și o parte importantă a inflației importate, practic, prin faptul că, mă rog, mai degrabă importăm decât exportăm. Din păcate, o bună parte a acestei a creșterii prețurilor vine și din bunurile și serviciile importate. Asta e, n-avem ce să facem. Trebuie să e un reglaj fin pe care, după cum guvernatorul îi place să spună, va trebui să-l facă în perioada următoare și deși poate că piața se așteaptă la scăderea dobânzilor mai mult decât e acum,
să vedem.
Am văzut totuși că până la finalul anului s-ar putea să mai fie cel puțin o reducere și la noi.
Să vedem.
Da.
Bun. Hai să trecem la BVB și să-l introducem alături de noi pe Peter Stohr, care e membru în board în Consiliul de Administrație, CFO de la grupul Premier Energy. Welcome, Peter, to Field the Markets.
Mulțumesc. Thank you.
Mulțumim și noi. You start to learn Romanian?
A little bit, but I will still prefer to stick to English.
We will stick to English, but next time maybe we will talk in Romanian. Let's talk about your business, Premier Energy Group. You have main business segments. Can you explain what's exactly the business and let's say you have renewable energy production and distribution, you have natural gas distribution, you have electricity distribution. Let's talk about these segments, this business to explain to us very clear, to make an idea more better than we have now.
Sure, and maybe before we dive into the specific segments, we can tell you is, kind of what's unique about the Premier Energy Group.
Exactly.
And one is we've been one of the fastest growing energy infrastructure companies in all of Southeastern Europe. We have grown the EBITDA from about zero back 10 years ago to approximately 100 million euros on a normalized basis. Currently, we're a vertically integrated business, and this touches upon what you had just mentioned and being all the different facets of the energy sector. So we are in the generation sector, so we do produce electricity primarily from renewable sources, and that is a business that is growing for us. It was one of the key reasons to do the IPO a few months ago, to have some extra capital for that growth, to fund that growth. We then have a business which manages other renewable plants, so it's kind of our management business. We then have a distribution business where we provide distribution of electricity, especially in the Republic of Moldova, and then we provide distribution of natural gas here in Romania. And then we also have a supply business that today has about 2.3 million customers in Romania and in the Republic of Moldova. And this vertical integration provides a couple of things. One, it allows us to capture margin throughout the whole value chain. Okay. It also allows us to be diversified. So when there's issues in one part of the energy sector, And I know one of the things that people probably want us to talk about is going to be the issues with the balancing costs in the market over the last several months. And it is an issue. We will discuss it. And it does have an impact on one of our businesses, and in particular, two of our businesses. But it does not have an impact on some of the other businesses. It, for example, has no impact to our distribution business. It has no impact to our natural gas business, and it has no impact to our business in the Republic of Moldova. So, even in times where there's issues in the market, our ability to be vertically integrated and to be diversified in terms of cash flows, in terms of profits, allows us to withstand any shocks very well. And that's, you can see that in our results.
Yeah. So from this perspective, we can say that you are naturally hedged. I mean, regarding your business lines, if one doesn't produce at the level that you want, maybe the other ones will catch up with revenues and the profits and so on. So
yes, and that is it's not perfectly hedged. There's no perfect hedges in the world, but yes, and every day as we continue to grow, and we have been growing quite rapidly, as I mentioned earlier, and we continue to have a number of generation capabilities that we're working on. We actually are also working on improving our balancing capabilities. So as we continue to do that, yes, we will become more and more naturally hedged. But that is the idea.
But in terms of quantities, revenues, how you said, which of these businesses lines you will be focused more in the next 1-2 years, or which of them will have a higher growth, let's say? Can you estimate?
So, it also depends if you're speaking about revenues or profitability. In terms of revenues, the supply business will continue to grow pretty rapidly. But the supply business, it has high revenues, but relatively low profit margins. Whereas our electricity generation business, our renewables business, has relatively small revenues, but pretty high margins. One of the nice things about renewable plants is that, once you build them, the variable cost is actually not that high. There's some maintenance expenses and things like that, but it's pretty small. So once you build it, the margins, the EBITDA margins of that business are actually quite nice, very healthy, very profitable, and that will continue. And that piece of it, as we continue to invest in new renewable energy plants, that will grow. That will be where the growth of the EBITDA will be. And our distribution businesses, we continue to invest in them, and they will continue to generate a nice, steady cash flow with some small growth as we're growing the regulated asset basis, but it will not be as rapid of an EBITDA growth there as we will most likely see on the renewable side, on the generation side.
Okay, let's move forward a little bit and talk or actually dive deeper into your financials. First of all, we have to say you have a 10% increase in revenues in the first half of the year. And maybe we'll talk later also about the profit, the normalized EBITDA and so on. But for the beginning, can you share with us or tell us what were the key drivers behind this growth in the first half of the year?
Sure. And if I can maybe ask you to go slide number 5, just go a couple slides forward, we can discuss. We can go with this slide. We had about 10% growth in sort of reported revenues, but it was actually 21% on a normalized basis. And I'll get to a second, what does normalized mean? We also had 3% growth in normalized EBITDA, again, in a world where the balancing cost that we'll talk about did impact our business, but it impacted the profitability growth. It did not necessarily cause any sort of decline in EBITDA. And then we have a very strong financial position that if you consider our working capital or cash balances, and our net working capital balances are actually greater than the debt. We also had overall 7% growth in our renewable production in terms of megawatt hours. We added another 1.3 million customers, primarily in Romania, through the acquisition of the CEZ Vânzare business, which has been renamed to Premier Energy Furnizare. We also had 48% growth in the electricity that was supplied. Some of that was organic. Much of it was through this acquisition, but we also had some nice organic growth. And then we had 26% primarily organic growth in the natural gas segment on the supply side. And in our distribution business on our natural gas side, we increased the customer count by about 11%. So, we saw some nice growth. It didn't translate to EBITDA growth as much as we wanted to, primarily because of the balancing costs, and we'll get into that in a second. Looking at our income statement, again, 10% sort of reported IFRS top line growth. It would have been 21% on a normalized basis, and the normalized EBITDA growth 3%. Having said that, IFRS reported numbers, the EBITDA declined by about a half. And I think it's important to look at what does it mean normalized.
Of course, because
normalized and balancing, because it's you said a few times, and we must understand very
exactly. And for those that read our prospectus during the IPO process, you would have seen that the word normalized was included at least 50 different times. We have a situation in our Moldovan business that business is 100% regulated. It's 100% regulated on the distribution, which is sort of standard for Europe. And it's actually the way that business is regulated is very much on par with EU standards and very similar to the way the Romanian distribution businesses are operating. But it has a supply business that is also regulated. And that's a bit unique because usually the supply businesses in Europe are not regulated. In this case, it's regulated, and it generates a 1% profitability margin. So you look at all of your costs, especially the electricity, the sourcing of electricity costs, and you put a 1% margin on top of it. But what happens in an ideal world, when you have constant electricity prices, you usually put in one tariff for the year. And that is the tariff that should, at the end of the year, get you that 1% margin. But of course, if you look at the volatility over the last 5 years, especially the last couple of years, given the volatility, it has been impossible to have a tariff in place for the full year to get that 1%. And if you think about the
Sorry for interrupting. You were mentioning several times this 1% margin above your costs, all costs. Is this something that we have to keep in mind, or this is a historically good margin, or it can be improved? I mean, 1.5, 2, or even more. I don't know.
So in the supply business in the Republic of Moldova, where we supply electricity to about 75% of the Moldovan population and have about 1 million connection points, it is regulated, and we do not expect that number to increase unless there's going to be some change, unless the market becomes deregulated, which at some point we believe it will be. Usually supply businesses in other countries are able to get sort of 3 to 5% type of margins. It varies from time to time. But yeah, it should be higher. In this case, it is 1%. People should expect it to be 1%. The problem with it is you have years where you earn more than you should, and you have years where you earn less than you should. And so we had a unique situation over the years. And if you think about the volatility of electricity prices, right, it's very important for people to realize that. We had a situation in the summer of 2020, when we saw some of the lowest energy prices any of us seen in our lifetime, right? Right at the onset of COVID, there was even a negative oil price in the US, I believe. Europe was, very low. And then you fast forward to the fall of 2022, and we have some of the highest energy prices we've seen in our lifetime, and some of the highest electricity prices, some of the highest natural gas prices. And so it's that kind of volatility where it makes it almost impossible to track a 1% profitability margin. But what happened is over many, many years, almost 2 decades, the business at the end of 2022 was actually on par. It earned what it should have earned. Okay, some years more, some years less, but it what it should have earned. Now, as we began 2023, the price of electricity actually came down relatively quickly in the Republic of Moldova. And the tariffs came down as well. We had 3 different price decreases on the tariffs, but they were not fast enough. And so we earned substantially more EBITDA in the business in 2023 than we should have. And if you look into our reported number for the group as a whole, it was 127 million euros, but we actually normalized it to about 90 million euros. And so we decreased it by about 30 some odd million euros. But what it also means is, and in the case of the Moldovan business, it generated 75 million euros of EBITDA, and you can see that on one of our slides. If you go back a slide, but that was double to what the business should have earned. So we earned 75 million last year, and we ended the year kind of having over-earned about 33 million euros. And this year, we're not earning much EBITDA. In fact, we're right around zero in the Moldovan business because we earned all the EBITDA last year. So we normalize, we bring down the EBITDA in 2023 to what it should have been. We're also bringing up the EBITDA in 2024 to show what it should have been, what we should have earned on a regulated basis. And we hope that by the end of this year, we'll be right around zero, right where we should have been in terms of the tariff deviation. And then going forward, this is a business that, if you see on a normalized basis, kind of earns 35 or so million euros of EBITDA. And so 75 last year, something very low this year. When you average those 2 years up, you would get a 35 million number, which is exactly what the regulation says we should have earned. So that's really the normalization. And it will impact this business going forward, but we hope in the future it will not be this significant.
That's exactly this I wanted to ask you. So you explained very well what were actually the factors that contributed to the increase of balancing costs. But what do you think? Is this a short-term issue or something that will, I don't know, persist maybe in the coming quarters or even years? I don't know. What do you expect?
So in terms of the balancing costs, which is another sort of unique feature to our financial results, on top of the tariff deviation. If I can ask you to show the next slide. Okay. I believe it's the one more forward. Yeah. One more forward. Yeah. So we tried to quantify the issue with the balancing cost, and you've seen a lot of news articles about it. It's not just from Romania. It really is impacting all of Southeastern Europe. In fact, there was an article in the Financial Times from the Greek Prime Minister about high energy prices, high balancing prices in all of Southeastern Europe, Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, and other countries. And basically what we found, and there's many different ways of looking at balancing prices, we try to sort of quantify it somehow for our investors. And we believe it was, 5 times as high on a standard deviation basis as in, for example, June of this year was about 5 times as high as June of last year. And just for people to understand, what is causing these balancing costs? And it's really 3 things. One is the war in Ukraine. Over the past year, the Russian army has really bombarded a lot of the electricity infrastructure in Ukraine. And Ukraine used to be a net exporter of electricity. So oftentimes when, for example, Romania needed some electricity, was short on the generation, it could import relatively well-priced electricity from Ukraine. Well, that has now reversed itself where Ukraine actually needs electricity. They've become an importer of electricity. So that causes, there's much more demand for electricity. So that's one thing. The other one has been, until recently, a relatively dry year. So we've had droughts in certain areas of Romania, which has caused hydro power, the electricity generated by hydropower to decline. I think Hydroelectrica had a number of around 22% reduction in the electricity being produced by the hydro assets. Hydro assets are oftentimes used for balancing. So there's been less capacity there to balance.
Nuclear also.
And nuclear also had some, there was some capacity was taken offline. You also had certain parts of the network. There were some improvements being done on. And then finally, you also have an increase in renewables. And listen, renewables are the way of the future. They are a great way, the variable cost, as I mentioned earlier, is actually relatively low for renewable electricity. So that's great for the future. The one issue, if we can say so, with renewables is that they need to be balanced. It's not always sunny, it's not always windy. And sometimes it's too sunny and sometimes it's too windy, but usually it's not enough. There's not enough sun, not enough wind. And so you have balancing issues. And so you need to provide some electricity to the system. And that has been more problematic this year than in the past. And again, it's caused by the situation in Ukraine, caused by the droughts, that meant that there's been less capacity available. And it has really caused the balancing cost to increase the way that they have. And they have impacted our renewable generation business. because we do need to balance part of the generation there, and it has also impacted our electricity supply business, especially the Premier Energy Furnizare business, which we were expecting for it to generate a few million euros of EBITDA, and it actually sort of came in with a zero, primarily because of the balancing cost that business had.
Knowing this, what investors have to expect the second half of the year? Because the budget with revenues, expenses, you didn't have one yet. So what's to expect from the business?
I think we can expect a similar second half as the first half, maybe a little bit lower because the balancing costs became an issue really in May and June. And while the summer, the balancing costs have been a little bit lower than in June, they've still remained to be elevated. Having said that, we are continuing to invest, and we are going to invest more and more into also some balancing capabilities. And I'd like to just point out that back in 2022, we actually acquired a gas to power balancing plant that was idle, and we had to refurbish it, which we did throughout 2023, get the new licenses for it, and it started operating as a balancing plant on July 1st. So, we are trying to play our role to decrease these balancing costs by providing more capacity into the market. And it's a 13 megawatt balancing plant. We're looking at ways to maybe expand the capacity a little bit. So we will be generating some revenue and some profits from this balancing situation, which will help our results. We also have some acquisitions, including the acquisition of an 80 megawatt wind park, which we bought at the end of July. So that will kind of help to fuel some growth in the second half of the year. But I think it's going to be very similar because net, we need a bit more balancing capacity to really have this natural hedge that we discussed earlier, where, if the balancing costs are an issue, well, at least you have one part of your business that's actually doing pretty well, while another part is hurt by that. But, the net of it is an overall slightly positive situation. So
okay, it's clear. It's quite clear what you just said. Let's move a little bit forward and talk about the balancing, actually, or the balance between the growth in the renewable energy and the natural gas, because we can say you are a leader in both of them, or one of the leaders in these areas. In the light of this current energy transition that we talked earlier about it, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about your investment plans. What are the directions where you will put your money, especially it will be the renewables, it will be the gas, or a mix of them, or how do you see it to understand it better?
So the vast majority of the investments will be into the renewables. It is something we've communicated to our investors, and it is something that the investors can see through all the various acquisitions we've done, including the ones this year, including we have about 280 megawatts of projects of capacity that we hope to bring online over the next couple of years. We hope to start constructing those over the next 12 months. And we actually hope to have some good news there to share with investors in the coming months on new projects that we will be developing, both on the wind side and on the solar side. And on the solar side, our two largest solar developments will have batteries attached to them. And so that helps with the whole balancing situation. We talked about our balancing plan, but it's also important to keep in mind batteries will play an increasing role in that balancing. So you can use electricity generated in the afternoon from all the sun and all the solar capacity in the evening when you don't have the solar generation anymore, and people need to still turn their lights on in their homes. So most of the money will be going towards the generation. Having said that, we will continue to invest in the natural gas business. The distribution, as I mentioned, had some pretty nice growth in the first half of the year. We increased the distribution customer count by about 11%. That will continue to grow as people want to get connected to the natural gas grid. And here I will mention, when we connect new customers, we are using polyethylene 100 material, which means most of our network is actually hydrogen ready, and it's green hydrogen ready. We will not introduce hydrogen to the world. We're way too small for that. But whenever hydrogen becomes available in the marketplace, we will be able to deliver it through our distribution network for the most part. And
but
so
since you just brought into discussion the hydrogen part, I mean, everybody is talking, okay, what's the future? I don't know, it's nuclear, it's renewable, it's solar, whatever, or it's hydrogen, because I would be interested in this, maybe you have some opinion on this.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I don't have any opinion. Okay. I think it's, it's being discussed. Certain technologies are being tried, and let's see what happens. But what we can do is to make sure that, at least for the most part, our distribution network is ready to deliver it to the customers whenever it becomes economically suitable and safe to do so. But I don't really have much of anything extra to share other than what you're seeing out there. There's a lot of technologies being tried. So let's see what happens with that. But I do think you're going to see renewables become a larger part of the electricity generation. It is also possible in the future that, people will use electricity to not only have electric vehicles, so use it as a replacement to petrol or gas with the cars. But you will also maybe in some cases use it to heat homes. So I think renewables are here to stay. We just need to figure out how to do it in a way that the systems are balanced, and we still need to continue to invest in that as a society and as a market in Romania, but it's really throughout Europe.
Okay. Please, Cătălin, you are muted, sorry. You are muted, yeah.
Sorry. About investing in Romania and Moldova, yes, you will focus only on these two countries and markets, or do you see any other countries suitable for investing in the future?
So we're definitely going to continue to invest in Romania, in the Republic of Moldova, where we see a lot of opportunities, but we are also looking at some of the neighboring countries. And let's see what opportunities will come about. As a company that is in private hands, publicly traded, but in private hands, we very much focus on shareholder returns, and that's what we're going to be judged on 5-10 years down the road. And so let's see what the opportunities are in those other countries to develop some sort of vertically integrated businesses as well. So we are looking at some opportunities, but let's see. We still see a lot of opportunity in Romania and in the Republic of Moldova.
I have 2-3 questions about the Romanian stock market, and you have already at the end of May, you become public, you listed at BVB. Why this move? Can you explain?
Sure. So we have, obviously I wouldn't be doing my job well as the CFO if we didn't have any other options to finance the business, which we did. But, the listing on the BVBD was very attractive. I think it's a phenomenal stock exchange, has a strong following, has a strong retail following, continues to grow. I think there's ways we need to improve the liquidity of all of the stocks on the exchange, and that's something that I know everyone is on everyone's mind, and there's ways to do that, and there's people are working on those ways. But it's a great way to reach the public. In our case, it was very attractive to increase the shareholder base, increase the ability to raise additional capital. I also think we became of a certain size, and I think certain sized energy companies should be public and should have the transparency that we have. I think if you look at our first half results, the director's report along with the financial statements was like sort of a 90-page document, and I think we've been as transparent as we can be about our company, our results, and also some of the opportunities and issues that our company and the energy industry faces. So it was very, in our mind, the best way to raise our capital, the best decision was to list on the BVB.
So you see nice, good prospects on BVB, even in the absence of the listing of medium or large companies, let's say, and the derivative market. You are optimistic.
Yeah, I'm very optimistic, and I think we will shortly become part of the BET index.
Yes,
I hope that over time, I'm very much hoping that the BVB index, goes from basically a frontier kind of market to an emerging market, and so that increases the amount of international investors that can invest in the market. And I will tell you, we actually did during the IPO, we did a 144A offering, which means our shares were actually offered to US-based institutional investors. And we really spoke to a diverse range of potential investors. And we do have investors from the US, from the UK, from Germany, other countries in Central Europe. We even have a sovereign wealth fund from the Middle East. And along with some of the top institutions here in Romania and the Romanian retail market. But it's really getting the word out about Romania, about Southeastern Europe, about the Republic of Moldova, which our IPO allowed. And I think we need more companies such as ours to use the BVB to allow them to grow and to raise the capital to grow.
You see, the last one, the BET index is full of companies from energy sector, let's say. This is an advantage or not? What's your opinion?
I mean, I think it's just reality. Romania is an energy hub for the region, and so that sort of translates to many companies. Some of them are great. Some of our peers on the exchange, I mean, we think the world of them. They're very well-run companies in the energy sector, and I'm sure they will continue to do well and grow. And so I think it's just a sort of a translation of the fact that Romania is becoming an energy hub, and for the investors, all I can say is, I do hope that there's other companies outside of the energy sector that also go public, so that we can continue to grow the exchange. Because I think it's great for the Romanian people to become stock investors, right? I'm a big believer in people having part of their net worth tied to the stock markets. And you see that in developed countries, and you're seeing it more and more here in Romania, which I think is great. And we're happy to play our small little part in that.
Yeah, okay. Let's jump and take a look on the quotation.
The chart.
On the chart.
The chart, da.
Let's see it.
Hai să zic că let's analyze in Romanian for our viewers, but there's nothing to analyze here. A început la final de mai și e o zonă de rezistență aici, maximul istoric imediat, minimum 24 septembrie, merge în range. Deci am pus pe 4 ore ca să avem mai multe lumânări. Nu e exact la jumătate. Eu zic resistance here 21, support 20, let's say around. Nothing else till now. We will see maybe after 4, 5, 6 months.
Okay. Because I have one more question now. We have also a question in the chat, and it says, if one of Romanian pension funds express their wish to invest in premier energy so far, can you tell us a little bit about this, or no?
Well, I think it was publicly disclosed that NN, one of the largest pension funds in Romania, became almost a 6% investor. It's just below 6% in the company. So they played a sizable role in the IPO, and I haven't sort of spoken with them, and actually haven't spoken to a lot of the other institutional investors. I thought they did a great job asking some very good questions and having done their due diligence in order to then make the sort of offer to participate in the IPO. And so they became an investor in the IPO, as well as a few other institutional investors that are of a smaller size and that are not publicly disclosed. But I thought they did a good job of asking the right questions and doing the right due diligence.
Maybe
participating in the IPO.
Maybe from now on, since you will be part of BET Index, of course, all other 6 pension funds, maybe they will take positions, or they will increase their position in premier energy. Anyway, we will see. We arrived at the end, but I have one more question for you. Looking ahead, in the future, maybe in the near future, what are the company's I can say strategic priorities, in order to maintain your growth, that you had till now, if you are considering this current financial conditions, because they are not that that good. Maybe they are more challenging, I can say, and also this green transition that we are talking about in Europe. What are your future plans, let's say, in a few words?
So I wouldn't say that they are as dark as you mentioned. I think we see a lot of growth ahead. We see a lot of growth on the renewable generation, but within a vertically integrated model. So it's not just, enough to say, yeah, we're going to expand on the generation side. You have to keep in mind, we have a very good managed business where we forecast and balance this electricity and dispatch it. And then we have the end customers. We have about 1.3 million end customers in Romania, another million in the Republic of Moldova. So right now, we actually have a lot more customers that we need to deliver electricity to than on the generation side. But the generation side, that's where we're going to invest. And so to grow that, to continue to grow as a vertically integrated business. And so it's something you're seeing on our natural gas side as well, where we continue to grow our customer count and we continue to look at ways to source natural gas, not just in Romania, but outside of Romania. And you asked, about the international expansion. We do have energy licenses in all of the neighboring countries, from Hungary down to Greece. Also,
so you are prepared. You are prepared.
Yeah, for the supply side. So, there's gonna be a lot of growth, but where the biggest part of the growth will be is on the generation side. And we're big believers in renewables, not because it's the right thing to do for us as society, but also it's starting to make economic sense. Because again, once you invest in the infrastructure, whether you've developed it yourself or you acquired it, the variable costs are actually not all that much. And then we need to think about how we balance it. And so that's something that we'll, continue to work on as society, not just Premier Energy or Romania, all of Europe, really the world. How do you balance it well so that we can deliver at the end of the day, very, scalable, very secure and sustainable energy at the lowest price possible to our customers, right?
Yeah.
When you need to turn on the light, turn on the TV, whatever, charge up your phones, you can do so, and you can do so in a very cost-effective way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter, being part of our show, and good luck with the business. Hope to see you in the future.
Thank you.
Încheiem aici ediția de astăzi. Vă dăm întâlnire mâine la aceeași oră ca de obicei. Până atunci, seară plăcută și profitabilă. La revedere!